Now, we looked into these fundamentals of relations through Samkhya last time, yes? I looked into this, how Purusha and Prakriti relate and what is truly going on. And I've selected some passages for us to dwell upon from Sri Aurobindo, from the Life Divine, where you can immediately get the sense how Sri Aurobindo viewed these Pancha Mahabhutani and five Jnanendriyas and Carmendrias. It's quite interesting. So here this quotation is, all forms of matter of which we are aware, all physical things, even to the most subtle, are built up by a combination of these five elements, yeah? Ether, air, fire, water, and earth. Upon them also depends all our sensible experience. It's quite interesting how Jnanendriyas are connected to these five elements. For by a reception of vibration comes the sense of sound. So there is some kind of reception of vibration. There is some sense or some consciousness which perceives certain vibration. And the sense of sound comes, and the sense of ether is holding that sense of sound. By contact of things in a world of vibrations, when vibrations clash, as it were, vibrations of force, the sense of touch is generated. The air, when the air blows, we feel the touch. There is a friction between one vibration with another vibration. By the action of light in the forms hatched, outlined, sustained by the force of light, and fire and heat, the sense of sight. And the fourth element, the sense of taste. And by the fifth element, the sense of smell. So we have interwoven consciousness into the five elements. All is essentially response to vibratory contacts between force and force. In this way, the ancient thinker bridged the gulf between the pure force and its final modifications and satisfied the difficulty which prevents the ordinary human mind from understanding how all these forms, which are to his senses so real, solid, and durable, can be in truth only temporary phenomena and think like pure energy. To the senses non-existent, intangible, and almost incredible can be the one permanent cosmic reality. Now, this is something really, if we dwell on it and if we think of how we perceive the reality, how we view these elements by our own senses. And it's quite interesting that in the Aitareya, the outer worlds are manifested through these senses and not other way around. It is not that we have the world and senses got developed to actually address these worlds. It's not like that. It is because of senses these worlds came into existence. So the senses or the faculties of consciousness are the cause of this world to appear as it is in this Pancha Mahabhutani form. In the Aitareya, it is said that his mouth broke forth purushas in universal purusha. Tasya mukham nirabhidyata mukhadvak vachognih. From his mouth of word or speech, from speech fire came into existence. Tasya nasike nirabhidyatam. His nostrils broke forth. Nasikabhyam prana, pranadvayo. From there the prana came into being, from prana wind air. Akshini nirabhidyatam, his eyes broke forth. Akshibhyam chakshuhu, vision, from his eyes vision. Chakshusha adityach, and from his sight, seeing, the sun was born. The light came into existence. Karnau nirabhidyatam, his ears broke forth. Karnabhyam shrotram shrotra, and from his ears hearing came into existence, and from hearing space was born. Now you can see that the space is the consequence that he wanted to hear the word. The vision is the cause of this consequence of light being born, because he wanted to see himself. So the seeing precedes the light, hearing precedes the space. So the Indriyas, which are here given as if interwoven with Pancha Mahabhutani, are actually the causes of this Pancha Mahabhutani to appear in the first place. They come into existence because there is a need of consciousness to perceive its own being in these terms of seeing, speaking, thinking, hearing, yeah? A view.
Vladimir, I I couldn't understand in between. Sorry. Uh, the relation between the Panch Mahabhutas and Indriyas and Karmendrias. I mean, how are they connected? Like a little bit, I could understand, but I couldn't understand the part where you spoke about smell and taste. Yes.
Yeah, it's a huge topic. I think we will be today speaking about these anyhow. Let us then clarify these today, that to the extent we can, really, because most probably we cannot just brush or touch upon them. This system is fundamental, yes, for every possible understanding of Indian philosophy. And I must tell you that Samkhya evolved, and this is the final vision of 25 tattvas. There was a Samkhya of the Gita, which is a bit different than this one. And there was pre-Sankhyaic Samkhya, so to say, which is evolving already in the Upanishads, to which we will refer today. So if you look at this, how they relate, the question was again, how the faculties and senses relate. Yeah. What is the difference between what I say, faculties and senses? There is no difference. Faculties is another word which is more independent because it is not involving us to think in terms of them as Sankhya does. Sankhya thinks about them as indriyas dependent on the manas. Here it is, this vision. Manas operates by Indriyas. Indriyas are dependent on the sense of mind, or the selection, on the mental selection. Uh, in the Vedanta, in the Upanishads, it's not so. Manas is one of these faculties and not the operator, not the one who chooses. Though manas has this particular most important quality is to concentrate consciousness upon any object of sense. It is by the manas that we select what to think, what to hear, what to see. It is that focusing of consciousness which manas brings into this picture. And because of that, it dominates other faculties, as if, again, it's not totally true. It's as if manas selects or focuses consciousness on a particular thing to see, on particular thing to hear, and we think that manas is operational. But manas is only an instrument of focusing. And here we are bewildered. Here we think that actually manas is choosing. Manas is not choosing. In Sankhya, behind manas, there is ahankara, the ego sense. That ego sense which holds the preference on what to focus the mind. And behind it, there is buddhi, the pure reason. And behind prakriti and behind purusha. That is purusha who is actually selecting, and ego sense, ahankara, um, formulates it or formates it, puts it into the form in prakriti. And manas is obeying the sanction of purusha on what to focus consciousness. And consciousness is purusha. So Purusha's consciousness is to be selected or to be focused upon any of the actions of his own faculties, which we call nowadays, now in Samkhya, Indriyas.
Dr. Atsinko, I have a question.
Yes.
If this is correct, then so in the Gita they say it's manas versus intellect, and one has to refine intellect to free the indriyas from the manas and therefore exercise judgment. But if it's purusha behind everything, then what is it that we as human beings control, as per this philosophy?
Yeah, intellect is an instrument. Yeah, yeah. So to say again, in buddhi, you mean in pure reason, intellect. That's what you're referring to, not manas. Manas is not intellect. Manas is sense mind. Yes, and according to this Sankhya, yes, according to Sankhya, not Veda. Veda manas is much greater. Yeah, it's a faculty of the mind itself, including buddhi, including higher mind, and including heart, including sense mind, including senses. Yeah. But again, uh, it's really I'm trying to connect different systems into one vision. Yes, speaking different languages simultaneously, unfortunately, and that may be confusing. But I would try to come out with, from this confusion. So without Purusha, the Purusha is consciousness. Yes, Prakriti is instrumental to this consciousness. She will be forming and putting everything instruments in particular formation for Purusha to shine through, to bring his consciousness through. So how does she do it? If you look at her steps, we will see that she will take all her possible states of being or force, rajas, tamas, and sattva, and mix them in such a way that it would allow that consciousness to shine through as pure reason, buddhi, or higher mind, as it were, then form itself as ahankara in more rajasic way, which would become a focal point of purusha, from which he could operate as he is the being or the self, yeah, self focusing of prakriti, of that consciousness which purusha landed to prakriti for the sake of forming that particular consciousness within her. And then manas, the capacity of purusha to focus consciousness on anything, would operate immediately and will focus on something what his consciousness, Purusha's consciousness in Prakriti offers as hearing, and it will select something from hearing, touching, select something from touching, seeing, select something from seeing. And in this case, in this way, ahankara will operate as our personality. But it is Purusha, yes? And Prakriti is instrumental here, constantly working for Purusha to make that possible for him to operate. So she developed these instruments. Not only these, she developed Pancha Mahabhutani. She developed the fields in which these faculties of consciousness can be operated, yes, on each level. On the ether, air, fire, all of them form the formation, form the touch, form the vibration as understanding, form the fluidity, the liquidity of the substance without form, and finally forming it into separate physical form, which can be distinguished from other forms by space in between. All that is the doings of Prakriti for Purusha's faculties to function. Now, finally, we put right hierarchy. Yeah? So, without Purusha, without him, I exist not, she says. Yeah? Without me, he is unmanifest. These are the relations. Now we have more difficult questions here, and that is Carmendrias. What are these Carmendrias? Now, Samkhya separated them in the pre-Samkhyaik paradigm. Vach is speech, is one of the faculties. It is the active counterpart of hearing, similar as it is here. But sight and mind are connected in the seeing and thinking are connected as uh, counterparts in the pre-Samkhyaik paradigm. Here, seeing and pada, legs, as locomotion, as movement, as mobility, sight and mobility. How that came into correspondence. This is something everybody wants to know. I'm always having these questions whenever I present Sankhya. Why pada and light, sight, fire? Why pada? Why legs?
Because Agni is for aspiration, it makes things move forward, and legs us to move forward in life because we walk forward. Like, I mean, that's what I feel.
Very nice, very nice. But why not the
I don't,
hands? Hands are also kind of to no.
hands do things, but we can be stuck in a place and keep moving our hands, and we are not moving forward. Aspiration is to move
Lovely.
forward.
Lovely. I like your explanation. It's this some
Is it
kind of
correct?
movement forward, and there is some even deeper scientific explanation. If you look into the light, if you examine how light works, yeah, how do we see things, even physically? I mean, from the point of view of physics, biology, yeah, what is really happening? Physics and biology put together. So what do we see really? I do not know whether we discussed this before. Most probably we did. Usually we discuss these fundamentals. So the photon, nobody knows what photon is, which is flying this 300,000 kilometers per second, which is an incredible speed. It's like 7 times around Earth in 1 second. 1 second and 7 times around Earth. This is the speed of light, the photon. Now, photon, that is what we call light. Yeah? These photons are constantly streaming from the sun, from other stars, from other bodies, from our electricity, our lamp, our computer, is streaming these photons. So they are coming out. We do not know what they are. They are either particles or waves or both or something else. Nobody caught photon. We can see only the result. When we put a prism, they fall on a prism and we see 7 different shades or the hues. Yeah? When we split the white light, we will see all the colors, different vibrations within one stream of light. Now, the photon, when it falls on the surface, is there a surface? There is no surface whatsoever. There is a being, there is this formulation of these atoms and electrons in such a way, if I would microscopically look into my hand, I will see huge spaces like the universes in between. Yeah, there's one proton with electron, there is another at a distance like Earth and Moon and Sun, something of that kind, like a solar system. Each atom is building many solar systems. Now the photon is so small that it could fly through without touching anything of that. There are huge spaces in between, but it is caught by this electron which is moving around, caught energetically. This energy is caught by electron, and electron is, because of that being charged with extra energy, changes its orbit to the higher orbit. Yeah? It shifts the orbit. And once it shifts, it cannot sustain because it's not sustainable place. It falls back to its natural orbit and releases extra energy it received. And that release of extra energy is what we call bouncing of the light, reflection. There is no reflection. The photon is absorbed by the electron, and the new energy, extra energy within the being is released. It's a constant emanation of light. Now, why I'm speaking all this so long, because I want to justify Pada only. Because if you think in terms of that everything sends a part of its energy, part of its being forward. And that's what we see. Seeing is actually a contact of being with being. Emanation of one being with emanation of another being. We are as if touching each other's bodies through light. We are one through light. We are one body through this light. That light is actually a link between one body and another body, energetic link which holds us together. And that is Pada. That is the communicator. That is the locomotion of one being to another through light. Yeah? Through light we connect, we communicate. So that could be one of the explanations. I found it very fascinating when I heard the story of the physicist explaining how we see. I thought it is reflecting light. There is no reflection, actually. There is absorption and emanation. Everything emanates light. It's not reflection. It's not bouncing of the light from the surface. There is no surface. And when we think there is hard surface, when I press hand onto hand, it's not the surface. It's one field of electrons with another field does not permit of pervasiveness, does not pervade. It stops. The energetic field stops another energetic field. And that's how we feel that it is hard surface. There is no hard surface. These are electrons, building the fields, stopping other fields to penetrate. So in that way, of course, this is an amazing vision. And what Sri Aurobindo here says is also absolutely. In this way, the ancient thinking bridged the gulf between the pure force and its final modifications and satisfied the difficulty which prevents the ordinary human mind from understanding how all these forms, which are to his senses so real, solid and durable, can be in truth only temporary phenomena and a thing like pure energy. To the senses non-existent, intangible and almost incredible, can be the one permanent cosmic reality. This is something we are very close to see why Samkhya is using this kind of vision. So it's much deeper than it looks like. It's not just formally putting things together, like those irreducibles in a logical structure, which is not very logical, because if you look at Carmendrias, you would not see that depth. And you will think, well, they just clubbed together. But look at these Carmendrias. Carmendrias, vach, the word, then pani, the kshatriya. The word is brahmana, the pani kshatriya. Pada, or the exchange of movement of delight, exchange of delight, constant exchange, the shininess, the emanation of Vaishya, and finally the service, the procreation. That means we have to continue to be here in some way, and we have to serve our system, to get in and out things. So this service within is, we can see the four different varnas in a way. also, I'm kind of exploring it today. It's not something I was thinking about, but you could see the whole structure already, the whole, how to say, archetypal way of looking at things. And Carmendrias, what is interesting about them is that they are the organs of action. They were developed from the darkest inconscient. They slowly built up the organs to act upon the outer being. So these are all extensions. Notice the hands are extensions to act upon outer being. These are the like the rays of the sun as a kind of extending. That's why Savitar in the Veda has hands. Hands are very prominent because he reaches out like his rays. Again, rays, reaching out and holding and giving and taking and giving, constant exchange of this body reaching out. Padas, another extension. We are moving this body away to some other body. Speech is another communicator, which is expressing oneself in order to be understood by other being and communicate. These are the communicators. They are connecting one being with another being. And procreatory and excretory organs also exchange with the world. Yes, we procreate, we give ourselves forward in time, and we exchange the food we eat, and the food goes through the system. We take from outside and we give it back. So this is the constant circulation with a bigger environment. You can see Carmendrias now. Now, there are only 5. There is no more. There are no more exchanges with the world. Only through the word, some kind of language, some kind of indicator. If I make a gesture with my body language, it's the word. Yeah, though I made it with the body, but I communicate through speech, not necessarily through vocal speech. Mainly it is through vocal speech. You can hear how birds sing in the morning in India, yeah? And you understand that they are communicating. It's a constant communication. Yeah, they cannot do it through maybe hands and feet immediately, but on the distance they can do it through the word. You can hear somebody is unhappy or somebody is very happy. Somebody is calling. Somebody is just singing. Because he is overtaken by his joy of life and is happy to do it. Mm. Cannot do but sing. So, and all that communicates to the world, and we know who is there and in what state he is. Or we can hear some growling, that means there is some danger, and so on. There is a constant communication through speech. Panis, again. Now, something about these Carmendrias, which we do not see yet, is that Sri Aurobindo speaks about them in The Secret of the Veda as panis, as the Indriyas of action, who somehow rob us, they are robbers and traffickers, rob us of our light of consciousness. Whenever we get insight in our Jnanendriyas, these Karmendriyas are robbing us. They steal our light and they hide that light into the subconscious cave of darkness. So everything what we receive as Purusha's action through these Jnanendriyas, 5 Indriyas, is, or not 5, there are more in according to Aitareya, is robbed and hidden by these Carmendrias. It's something very interesting. Carmendrias are active, embodied organs of senses. Yeah, they are evolving. They evolved from the darkness, these organs. Through this interaction, they do not know how to receive the light. They need the light of consciousness, but they do not know the value of it and how to deal with it, but they want to have it, as it were. So they steal it. They rob us of our own self-awareness. So whenever I want to be seeing myself or comprehending of my own being, so hearing deeply. So every time I have to stop my activities. I have to stop speaking. I have to stop moving my hands, taking and giving. I have to stop walking. So the whole method of yoga was developed that I could sit down quietly, close my eyes, stop moving, stop breathing, stop thinking even, in order to reach deeper into myself and to perceive my deeper self. The moment I start moving, my hands, feet, speak too much, that thing disappears, the connection. This is the major psychological problem of human beings. We can be either active or perceptive. We cannot be both. And nobody knows why. Why can't we be perceptive of our inner self being active? The moment we start activity outside, too much movement, running, hands, this, thinking, speaking too much, I would not say even procreator, excretor organ. The moment we start involving with these activities, we are losing our inner connection. We become outer beings. We become something else. We become a Prakriti's children, as it were, natural beings.
This is so unfair, Vladimir.
I like your comment. Unfair. It is unfair. It's totally unfair. And
I mean, look at the words you're using. We are robbed of. And that is why, it's always a choice. You want to engage in senses, or you want to come within and be, like you want to go for a buffet, or you want to sit and meditate. It's like that. No, all the time senses are like
absolutely,
that.
absolutely, unfortunately. And if we start observing it psychologically, we will see that it is true. And we will understand why these methods of yoga were developed, why this, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, what is this pratyahara, and why that dharana, that concentration can happen only when you are totally pacified, purified, immobile, sitting totally immobile, focused, one-pointed. Then you can break through to your inner being, inner perception, and not otherwise. The moment you start moving these Carmendrias, you are. That's what Pavitra was asking Sri Aurobindo. He said it's very nice when I am in meditation and I feel the presence of force, but the moment I start engaging with life, or I think intensely about some formula, I want to solve some puzzle or some equation mathematical, the perception disappears. That inner perception, inner presence fades away. So how
Could
to
we
resolve this? Yes, Rinku.
could our previous sanskars and the impressions do that? Like, can can that be the reason?
This is a good suggestion what you are giving. The cheetahs interaction, yes, with cheetah. Cheetah has already all those um, how to say, stored, yes, reflections, stored solutions for us from the past, which are immediately popping in and offering us the modality of action. Yes. So instead of me discovering a new, I already have something in hand and I automatically react. Yeah?
Because
Chitta,
I have heard many times mother say, right, the forces, the thoughts are always from outside.
yeah,
So And psychologically, if I'm talking to a client, it's not at all feasible to tell a client not to think. That's so stupid to say, not to think. So it becomes kind of a double-edged sword. Like, yeah, it's going to be there, but you have to learn how to keep your balance with it. Might be.
Thinking can be viewed differently. Thinking could be very useful when you use the mind as a power to concentrate on something. Yes? So you can focus your consciousness on something you want to resolve. You can suggest to the client to focus on the problem or on the solution or whatever you're offering. I would rather focus on the solution rather than on the problem. But this focusing and holding on to may bring everything else. But thinking too much, yeah, and not focusing, kind of floating around about things, going here and there, is not very useful if that focus is not held. If focus is held, then thinking can be like an instrumental, may clarify the focal point better and better. But if the focus is not made, then the thinking is no use. Yeah, it's just.
So suppose I'm trying to focus on a particular maths problem, and there are these random thoughts that keep on coming, which are not related to maths problems. So should I say that these random thoughts are sanskars or are from outside forces?
It could be. It could be from there. Or it could be from something else. There is some need in the being, or some intentions were made before, which are now wanting to be realized, or something was in the dream which you forgot, and now it is coming back to you. Whatever. There are many sources why it comes there, but the point is here: if you keep the focus, then these things either they fall away or they become useful for you to clarify the focal point and see it better and better. They start kind of helping you in some way.
How can I use this concept, five Carmendrias, the Indriyas, and Mahabhutas, in this understanding?
Yes, we have to a little bit more speak on it, on how these Carmendrias are stealing light, and then I'm sure you will see something very, very important for psychotherapy and psychology in general. You can see that why these methods of yoga were developed to immobilize us, to sit immobile, to stop even breathing. We have to stop. You will notice that breathing in and out is actually invoking thinking, the process of this flow of thought, and why the breath is to be controlled and stopped in certain way under control of your will, that you will start controlling your mind. You will start controlling your thoughts. They are connected, breath and thoughts. It's even it is said in pranayama that pranayama is like a rope which is tied to the bird, and the bird is the mind which wants to fly everywhere, and you hold that rope and the mind is not flying away. You can control the bird. It would fly away if you would not have the rope. So if you start controlling your breathing, you will be in control, starting to be in control of your thoughts. And I noticed that pranayama is very difficult to achieve if you have disturbed mind, or you have some anxieties, or you have some plans, something you want to do. And you notice when you breathe in, then you hold and breathe out regular, yes? You must calm your mind. You must control your mind. Because if mind wants to do something, you will not be able to breathe. The breath will be broken. You will be suffocating. It's a very interesting thing how breath and thinking are connected. You have to restrict your activities outside. That's why we have this idea of people in Advaita, people removing their activities from life. They're more and more removing the actions from the outer being to find their inner connection. So they are becoming immobile, they reject any activity outside, sannyasa, renunciation of life, and so on and so forth. Now, Sri Krishna resolved this problem very differently through karma yoga. And here I say one word and I will stop here. That he says that to restrict Carmendrias is no use. You have to restrict Jnanendriyas, not Carmendrias. Says real tiaga, real sannyasa here is happening here, not on the Carmendrias side. So you have to stay active in your life, but you have to withdraw the thirst of each indriya to receive that self-satisfaction. The real tiaga is to withdraw the seeking for self-satisfaction within Jnanendriyas and not within Carmendrias. And then Carmendrias will act very differently. They will not be an obstacle, it seems. So it looks like we have a problem here within the Jnanendriyas, not Carmendrias. We will come to it again because this is a very important psychological treatment. What Sri Krishna offers is you have the right on action, that Carmendrias have to be involved, but not for its fruit. You should not look for the result. You should, because the result may satisfy Jnanendriyas. Yeah, Jnanendriyas are looking for the result. They want self-satisfaction. So if you remove that palam, yeah, karma palam, the fruit of action, then indriyas become the channels for the higher consciousness. They are no more looking for their self-satisfaction. Then karmendriyas can act. There's no problem. Then consciousness can shine through. It doesn't matter what you do. Really does not matter. You may do all the activities of ordinary life, but you have to withdraw that claim of indriyas to get self-satisfaction.
How?
You have to connect them. You have to reorient them to your inner being. And it is quite difficult because the moment you start moving outside, walking and talking, so these Carmendrias habitually steal our light. That's what we were talking. We are coming back to our beginning of our. So these are the panis who are stealing our light. So Sri Aurobindo was training these. He said that you have to train these Carmendrias, these panis, because they are not the enemies, he says. They just do not know how to be otherwise. Yeah? They can only grab our light because they want it so much, because that light will give them kind of give them a purpose to live, so to say. They live for that light. They want it more than anything. They don't have it and they want it. But because of that, they are robbing us and we are becoming unconscious in activity. So how to balance between the two? And Sri Aurobindo says, he suggests to Pavitra, he says, you go slow. You stay in the meditation when you have the connection, the presence, and you start bringing it in a mechanical, uninterrupted movement, slow movement outside, holding to that perception. You hold to perception, you start acting a little like zombie, yeah? But hold to that perception and slowly bring that light of consciousness into every possible activity. That's what he suggests to Pavitra. Because the moment you start moving unconsciously, it disappears, the presence.
Why has this been made so difficult? I mean, um, so there is the linkage, and it sounds in the right direction. But why is it that it's kind of never-ending and so effortful to achieve the connection with the inner being?
And to achieve the inner, the connection between the inner and outer, yes. Because of these indriyas, or these faculties, which are looking for their self-satisfaction because they fell into the inconscient ocean, and there they were tormented by hunger and thirst. And they developed in themselves this kind of insecurity, as it were, and they have full right to receive absolute enjoyment because they are representatives of the higher consciousness. And because of all of this, uh, they are kind of drawn to the absolute self-satisfaction, and they don't want to lose time. You cannot tell them, so wait, just wait, it will come. You may hold them for a while, but then if it doesn't come immediately, then they will say, okay, it doesn't come, I will go my habitual way, as I know it to be working for many millions and billions of years. Yes, so that's how they developed.
But so could this also be the reason for creation and humanity to exist for the time it does? It's only these Indriyas. Otherwise, if we were to connect, then we would be in a different state of evolution completely. So maybe that's the transition which collectively we are working towards over whatever time period.
Absolutely, we are in the stage where we should be. Yes, absolutely. I don't say that they have no rights for their whatever partial satisfaction, self-satisfaction, and so on. They have that right, and they must do that. What they do, they build the ego sense in us, which is functional, which is the evolving, but it wants more and more. These Indriyas want more and more. They want to be more and more luminous, more and more. So we developed outside our technologies, our civilizations, our cultures, because they want it. Yeah? They want it outside and inside and everywhere. So we move outside, we build our beautiful buildings, be as comfortable as houses, technologies, and so on and so forth, cars, airplanes. It's because of them. Yeah.
But we also, so by fulfilling them to the extreme, we also end up damaging them. So,
Well, yeah, yeah, we take away their opportunity to find their true source, or true origin. Yes, we take away temporarily. Again, everything is on the scale of time. Yes, it depends how fast we want to go. But if we develop outside the whole replica of the inner world through technologies, if these technologies will not substitute our need for reconnection with our inner being, then it's fine. But if they will try to substitute our ways of being conscious, yes, if they would be kind of doing for us our conscious work, that would be a damaging part, yes. Technology cannot really substitute our consciousness and our self-finding and our inner delight of existence. It has to shine through, it has to come to the surface. Technology can be very useful because it helps us to do things faster and to show to Indriyas that actually it is not there. The satisfaction is not there. It is just a tool. Yeah? So it must be developed in a way. I think everything goes the right way, right direction. We can't avoid it.
And if we are able to somehow even temporarily manage our lower members, say for example taste, uh, then suddenly the indriyas of those around us becomes more active to steal that light. Like if you detach from food and you don't want to eat, suddenly everybody wants you to eat more. They didn't even care before that. I mean, I'm talking about very simple things, like we move forward and we go, and then it's like even more bigger forces coming from outside as well, not just from the inside. I mean,
Right,
that
right.
I'm speaking from experience. I feel that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you can see that even this taste is developing and developing and developing. It's never ending development of some kind, and this and that variety and this variety, and more subtle and more this and more simple, and going back and forth and looking for constant kind of self-satisfaction, which is and you say they're stealing our light, stealing light constantly by through these activities, but that light is stored into the subconscious cave, which I didn't mention yet. That subconscious cave is a storage of all our spiritual experiences and insights, yeah? And that one day has to be recovered by us. And this is the secret of the Veda, that cave of wonders, or that Aladdin cave, that one, where all the genie is hiding somewhere there, and holding all our resources, our spiritual resources within the material frame have to be one day revealed to us. They have to be released. They have to be made free. And this is what the secret of the Veda, when the rishis come down and find that subconscious cave and destroy Vala, break and release the herds of the sun, the new sun, the new heaven, the new dawn is born. Yeah, everything is released, new waters. It is those waters which were stored within our material frame now are nourishing it from within, from below, as it were. So there will be one day a surprise for us, that these Carmendrias, by stealing all our light, will release it to us, or the higher forces will come down and release it for us to use, and that will be a great transformational move of our being. It is
And
still
that
in the
may just
future.
happen on next Monday.
Yes, I'm sorry, I'm already carried away 23 minutes. Sorry, i'm I'm taking your time, but this had to be finished. It's a one piece of
Oh, no,
vision.
we're totally delighted. I'm like, you take us to the Cave of Wonders, and then you say the session is over. So that's why I mentioned, it's like taking the kids right to the jewel, and they say, tonight we close it, come tomorrow. That's what I'm like. I'm
No,
not
I
complaining.
didn't think about that. Yes, but it happened to be today like this. That cave of wonders. Yes, that secret of the Veda. That is the secret of the Veda, which Sri Aurobindo speaks about. That cave, that light within the darkness. Yeah, which has to be recovered by us. We have to recover ourselves. That's why we store ourselves over time, and then we will recover in this material frame. Okay. Om Shanti 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 Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha Hari Om. Hari Om. See you next time.